So God created mankind in his own image.
In the image of God, he created them.
Male and female, he created them.
God blessed them and said to them,
"Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground."
This is God's creation mandate to every man.
Are you living in alignment with your purpose? Many men don't know that they were made for a three-part purpose. And today on the Next Stage podcast for men, Rob Stout talks about a man aligning himself with the purpose that God chartered for him in Genesis 1:28. This is God's powerful, transformative mandate for a man to fill, subdue, and rule by producing good things, establishing order, and governing over that order. The Next Stage podcast for men is a no-nonsense, bi-weekly audio and video podcast helping a man live a life of purpose, born out of his identity as a man created in God's image. For more information about Rob Stout, the Next Stage podcast, or Sherpa Unlimited, see the show notes or visit sherpaunlimited.com/podcast. Welcome to the Next Stage.
Did you see the movie Iron Man? Robert Downey Jr. played the role of a guy named Tony Stark, who was an arms dealer, arms manufacturer, and he was kidnapped by a group of terrorists, and he escapes their captivity through fashioning together an iron suit that he made out of scrap metal and spare parts. And upon returning home, he devoted all of his time and attention to resourcing and putting together and perfecting the Iron Man suit. And he used it to fight evil. He was a superhero. It's a great story. He was a billionaire. He was a genius. He was also a playboy. He was a weapons manufacturer, and he fought evil as Iron Man. But underneath all of that, underneath the suit and all the incredible things that Iron Man did, he suffered from a deep sense of insecurity, and it showed itself in sarcasm, in chasing after successes and chasing after women. And deep inside, underneath the suit, he was deeply insecure. His identity was completely tied up in performance and achievement. His problem is that he didn't know who he was without the suit. I think that parallels a lot of men's lives. They do not know who they are or what they are supposed to be as men. It's a problem of identity. And it shows itself in a couple different ways. Either on one end of the spectrum, through powering down. A lot of men face this and they get lost, they get depressed, they get isolated, they get addicted, they even get suicidal. Or they power up. They use work and achievement and material things and sexual conquest and leveraging power and influence to form their identity. I mean, have you seen that guy before? Have you been that guy before? It's a guy who has the best job. He's got the most influence. He's got the most money. He has the best girlfriends. He's got the trophy wife, house, boat, car, vacation, 401k, whatever it is. He's the smartest guy in the room. But beneath all of that, he is deeply insecure. In fact, he's got what's commonly known as imposter syndrome. He has imposter syndrome, and Tom Hanks framed this incredibly well. He did an interview with a show called Fresh Air on PBS in 2016. And Tom Hanks said this: no matter what we've done, there comes a point where you think, how did I get here? And when are they going to discover that I am in fact a fraud and take everything away from me? That's Tom Hanks. He's one of the biggest actors in the United States, and yet he has that same problem of imposter syndrome. See, the problem is that men today don't know who they are what they're supposed to be, what their purpose is. So they create successful or tyrannical or addicted or violent or even lost masks that they wear. And they try to find identity, but it's masked in deep insecurity. We have a need as men to find and live in identity instead of powering up or powering down. The hard truth is that if you don't have an identity, you will chase things that don't matter until you find one for yourself. And many men go through their entire life trying to find it. Manhood in the real world means living with a powerful, transformative mandate and identity. Men, there's a loneliness and isolation epidemic going on in our world today. 50% of men report frequent feelings of loneliness. Another 50% report not having any close friends. And 70% of men report not having a significant relationship or a conversation that goes beyond the surface level in the last week. Life doesn't have to be that way. In fact, Sherpa Unlimited has come along and said, we want to help solve that problem. And I want you to picture your world like this. Picture your world where you have other strong men around you who are heading the same direction you are. Not just yes men in your life or drinking buddies or poker playing buddies or something like that, but men where you had the opportunity to grow, to really foster the kind of life that you want, to grow that internal world that allows you to be the man you need to be at work, at home, in your community. Men who are there to challenge you, but also lift you up when you fall. And we all do. I want you to check out Sherpa Unlimited's opportunity that we have coming up. They're called Ascent Men's Communities. These are bi-weekly groups that meet literally anywhere in the world. You have to invest in these. They're not just free, but it's very affordable. You'll see. Less than the cost of a couple pizzas and certainly less than the cost of your gym membership. Go to sherpaunlimited.com/ascent. We'll see you in one of our Ascent Men's communities very soon. So what is this identity? What's this powerful transformative mandate? And what does it look like in your life? How do you know when you're successful at doing it, at living it out? You know, I want to take you back to the very beginning. In fact, the book Genesis in the Bible, it means beginnings. It's the name of Genesis. It's what it means. But picture this. Following the incredible creation of everything that is, after creating everything from the sun and moon and stars and all the way through the created order that's laid out in Genesis chapter 1, God puts a man and a woman in a perfect place called the Garden of Eden. And actually the geological coordinates of it are in the Bible, so it was a real place. But check out what God tells the very first people as they step foot on planet Earth. Genesis 1:28 says that God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and over every living creature on the ground." God gives them a clear mandate born out of their identity of who they were. Who were they? They were creatures created in the image of God. And God lays out a very clear mandate for them. And it's broken down into three pretty simple things. The first, you can just break it right down out of that verse. He says, "Be fruitful, increase in number, and fill the earth." This is about what you produce. This is particularly talking about not just your sex drive, but it's far more than that, but it starts with your sex drive. That's the thing that you're going to think about initially. What does it mean? Be fruitful, increase in number, and fill the earth. Well, there were two people, and the mission was that there was going to be an entire population of people who would fill the earth and rule over the earth. So this powerful mandate talks about who you are as a man, about your sex drive, about your testosterone, about what it means to be a man and what it means to put that to use. You see, God instructs you to address your sexuality as a part of mission in His world. It's about what you produce, and you are supposed to see it not as a curse, but as a blessing in your life. This is a cultural, countercultural view of sexuality. On the one hand, men are told to be aggressive, to go for it. There are guys who dominate women and abuse women. That is absolutely incorrect. The other one is much more popular in our culture right now, and it is the fact that manhood is toxic and is a bad thing. In fact, James Cameron, who has produced hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue in testosterone-filled movies, said this: that testosterone is a toxin that you will have to slowly work out of your system. He could not be more wrong. Testosterone is something that God has given you and wants you to use it for good in the world. You see, it's something you use and you grow in, not to become something, to prove yourself, but because you are something. You don't work for something, you work from something. And that something is who God created you to be. It has to do with your sexuality, but it has to do with a whole bunch more than that. It means living and bearing fruit like a tree, like bringing forth a lasting legacy, creating value in the world, building and developing and multiplying everything that God has entrusted to you, and leaving a legacy that outlives you. That's what it means to produce. And that's part of your identity that God has given you. Second part, it's about subduing. He says to subdue all of creation. It has to do with what I call your mission. That's your mission. And it's not passive. Instead, it's very active. It's strong and it's intentional. The same word subdue is used other places in the scriptures for conquering lands or bringing enemies under control. It means that God put Adam and Eve in the world, on the planet, and said, listen, I want you to control, to make everything submissive. All the wilds of the original planet in its original state, I want you to bring it under rightful authority and rule. Again, not powering up, not being abusive, dominant, or exploitive, but also not powering down and being passive and just like, well, whatever happens, happens. No, it means that you live a life of stewardship and ordering the world as you work with God in mission. You were not created to exploit and to just abuse power. And you were also not created just to sit back and consume and take it easy. You were created to step into the wild places and bring order to them and to work hand in hand with God to do that. Third thing, if you look further in that one verse, is to rule. God says, listen, I want you to rule. The Hebrew word that's used there is authority and responsibility and governorship and oversight. It's the same word used for a king, not only conquering, which is what the mission word is about, the subduing word, but ruling over. See, God had given everything to Adam and to Eve to work in partnership with him as they were in this mission. But he put everything under their charge and said, listen, I want you to influence it. I want you to shape it. I want you to have authority over it. I want you to govern it. I want you to make it fruitful. I want you to multiply, those previous words. And to you, here's the thing. God has given you legitimate authority. And it's not just something you have manifested or brought up forth in your life, which is a weird thing. Instead, it's been given to you by your Creator. It's in fact not even a choice. It's a mandate that God has given you. He said, go do it. And so that's the mandate, is to produce good things, to establish order, and to govern over what God has entrusted to you. My question for you to think about is pretty simple. How does this paradigm, this way of thinking, contrast to the world around you and the culture around you? It has to do with living out your identity, of producing, of establishing order, of stepping into the wild places, of influencing and governing and shaping and making productive and fruitful and beautiful and all of those things. That is very much in contrast with the cultural view that you have of consuming and using and taking and dominating and abusing on one end, or of laying back and just being passive and letting things happen, letting other people take control of your life. You see that contrast? That is a very different mentality. See, manhood in the real world means living with a powerful, transformative mandate given to you, not by yourself or someone else or me, but given to you by your Creator. It requires producing good things, establishing order over the wild things, and governing over what has been entrusted to you.
Men are now under attack. Not physically, but spiritually, mentally, and relationally. Men are distracted, isolated, addicted, passive in their marriage, disconnected with kids, and a lot of men are wrestling with why they feel empty even though they're successful. Many men are tempted to throw in the towel, and in fact, many have, sadly. I'm Rob Stout, the host of the Next Stage podcast and founder of Sherpa Unlimited. And in addition to the work that we do here with the Next Stage, I speak at men's conferences, retreats, churches, and leadership events for the purpose of encouraging men to not only face their challenges, but to live with passion, purpose, power, and perspective in their daily lives. I've found that when a man understands who he is, he starts leading differently in his home, at work, and in the world around him. If your church or organization wants to call men to live higher instead of simply putting Band-Aids on wounds, then let's partner together. Simply email me at the Next Stage at Sherpa Unlimited, and let's talk about your vision for your next men's events, conference, or retreat. Let's go.
Learn more about having Rob Stout speak and teach at your next event at sherpaunlimited.com/speaker, or email the Next Stage at sherpaunlimited.com.
So how do you do this? What is something you can do this week to not just kind of be like, wow, that was cool, but what can you do to be successful and to hold yourself accountable to putting this into action? Let's take a look at those three things. Be fruitful, increase in number, and fill the earth. It's what you produce, remember? I think the call to action is to take your life very seriously, especially the area of your sexuality as a man. Because here's the thing, in contrast to what your culture has to say, you are not a sperm donor, you're not a baby daddy, you're not some untamed, wild creature that lives out his sexual exploits with females and untamed, just kind of physical or sexual power. And in fact, you do not participate with women who invite you into that. You're the man who says, you know what, I don't live that way. You're the man who says, you know what, that's not the kind of women I hang around. I know there is an entire internet and AI full of women who want to invite you into that and actually use their sexuality as a weapon. But you're not a man like that. You're a man who has been made in God's image and given a mandate. And your sexuality is part of that mission. It's not just your sexuality. It goes way beyond that. It's your creative genius that God has given you. It's what you produce intellectually, your ideas, the work of your hands. It's your business acumen, your pursuit of a medical degree. It's your engineering strengths. It's everything that God has given you, all of it. And what you produce is very much a part of your God-given identity because you've been created in His image and you've been given this mandate. The call to action is to take that very seriously and use it for good. Secondly, the second part, let's take a look at the second part, the mission part of subduing the untamed and stepping into something wild. That's your mission. View your life not as a mistake, not as a fluke of nature, not as a just random act in the universe, but a life born out of this identity. You see, God created you. He gave you identity and mission, and He calls you to step into the world, which is a wild, dangerous place, and to stand in those dangerous places as a force for good. To approach your job as a mission. To get in on the front end of creative energy. To get in on the approach to culture where you stand and you're like, nope, this is my life. This is my home. To be a man, frankly, that when you're out with your girl or with your wife, that it's not just taking a stand back, but you're a guy who walks in and people know, whether you're big of stature, small, whatever you are, that you're a man who knows who he is. He's on a mission. And frankly, no one wants to mess with him. Not out of some macho position that you take or trying to be tough guy, but you're a man who steps into the wild, dangerous things because you're a man on mission. Third, ruling with influence. You see, your job, it's not where you just aggressively are a ladder climber at work, but you're on a mission there. You're filling and increasing and producing and doing all of that, not so that you can become something, but because you are something. You're a light that shines in dark places. As Jesus said, you're the salt of the earth. You're the light of the world. With your family, it is God's outpost of His kingdom that He's put right there in your home, whether or not you're single or married. It is His hope for the world. It is where you produce the next generation of followers of God. And so approach your family and your household that way, as a place where you influence. How about with your community? It's a place where you view that as a mission field, where you serve, where you live out the words of Micah 6:8, which I love that verse in the Bible, to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. You don't view it passively, but instead you view life as, hey, this is the part of the world that God gave me. I'm going to influence it for good.
Does your sermon only get one squeeze? There's probably more juice in that sermon. ReSermon repurposes sermon content for optimal ministry impact. Learn more at resermon.com or email hello@resermon.com.
So my question for you, just like always, what is one thing that you can do? What is one thing that you can define and step into this week? I want you to identify one area of your life where you've been passive or where you've been too controlling, and take one decisive action this week. Pick one thing out of your domain that God has given you and step into it. Maybe it's at work. It's having that hard conversation. It's taking that initiative. Maybe it's getting that degree that you've been putting off, or taking on that project, or going to see that client that you've been just ignoring. Stepping into a problem that needs to be solved. Maybe it's with your family. Maybe it's taking the lead on something. Maybe it's leading your wife or your kids or your friends in prayer. It's initiating a conversation. Maybe it's planning intentional time. How about with your personal life? Maybe you need to cut something off that is undisciplined in your life. Not so that you can be this rigid guy, but so you can be a freed up man. Because this thing is taking control of your life. Maybe it's time to start doing something life-giving instead. What is that area? Maybe it's in your community. It's stepping into a place of need. It's working with widows and orphans and doing what James calls pure and undefiled religion of helping those who are helpless. Maybe it's serving in your church. What is one thing? I want you to just think of it. What is one thing that you will put into action today in order to put manhood in the real world into action? Pick one thing. Maybe you need to think about it, but I would love for you to email me later, thenextstage@sherpaunlimited.com. Just email me and tell me about what you've done as a result. See, manhood in the real world means living with a powerful, transformative mandate. An identity given by your Creator, and it requires producing good things, establishing order of the wild things in your world, and governing over what has been entrusted to you. Go do that this week.
Thanks for joining us on the Next Stage podcast for men with Rob Stout. The Next Stage helps men live with purpose, born out of identity, as men made in God's image who are shaping this world for good. The Next Stage is a production of Sherpa Unlimited Coaching for Men, based in Denver, Colorado in the United States. Learn more at sherpaunlimited.com/thenextstage, or follow Sherpa Unlimited on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. We love feedback. Please send your feedback, questions, or requests for future content to this email, thenextstage@sherpaunlimited.com. Again, thenextstage@sherpaunlimited.com. The Next Stage distributes episodes every 2 weeks on Wednesday mornings. The Next Stage taps the wisdom of the ancient scriptures, and if you don't have a copy of the Bible, we can help you fix that. First, you can visit any public library and check one out, or visit an online or local bookstore. Alternatively, just about any Bible-believing church would be happy to give you a Bible for a nominal price, or even free. And while you're there, make a personal introduction to the pastor or his staff, and consider attending services there this Sunday. Finally, you can just download a free Bible app called YouVersion for your smartphone. Whether you have an Apple iPhone, Google Android phone, or something else, go to your phone's app store and search YOU Version and select the YouVersion Bible. Also, you can find a link for the YouVersion Bible app in the show notes of today's podcast. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
The Next Stage's production and marketing is by Christopher Mann at Resermon Thought Leader Marketing, a marketplace ministry to pastors. For more information, email hello@resermon.com.